Okay, so the one portion here was the overlap with Asperger syndrome. Okay, yeah, with the fearlessness, planning, empathy, deficit, callous behavior. Yeah, like I was saying that there was some. You couldn't umbrella it. There was like no way to umbrella this, you guys, okay? You can't. But like it's like a person with like Asperger's, but he's also a sociopath. Not a psychopath. See, mm-mm. He was a socio that had Asperger's. And that combination was so fucking annoying, and he's being impulsive, can't take the word no, being a creepy son of a bitch, wanting to murder people, this thing, that thing. And he's like, I'm assuming OCD too, maybe with it, because he needs to like do this to every woman that he meets. And even Obama, like he had celebrity people he started targeting. And I'm like, what the fuck, dude? But yeah, that was actually the traits there. So I know that for sure. But then you'll start seeing like Robert, the Dirts guy, right, who murdered people, totally autistic, but he's a sociopath. But you might want to call him a psychopath, right? Like you might have that feeling to do that. But I'm thinking he's just a cluster of maybe autistic and something else, and maybe he's just a sociopath. He just has no feelings. He's just like, I just had a burger. I mean, I mean, yeah, like that, dude. And then the creepy other, I don't know if it'd be Rex, somebody else up in here, seemed kind of like they might be autistic, and then they're arrogant as you know what. They're all narcissists. Like I cannot see where anybody would say that was not included. Just an actual included thing with them all. Like it's just part of the trait. Some people with Asperger's syndrome have shown correlations with the unemotional factor and behavioral discontrol factor of psychopathy, but not the interpersonal factor. It has been suggested that psychopathy may be comorbid with several conditions. That these, no, that dude was a sociopath. Socio, like by the definition that I want to go by socio. I'm not use psychopath on that guy. That's just stupid. Yeah, and I'm trying to pull up women with it. Um, Studies have found when women in prison score significantly lower. Okay, either you're being highly manipulated. I told you. Okay, so Brittany's thing was hard to pick because she's doing a character, right? But I don't know how much of a danger. She's a little dangerous, okay? But I'm saying my thing. They might get mad. It's okay. That's some socios will, and they want to attack me. But then again, she might look at it and go, oh, I don't even want to be perceived like that. You know what I mean? Something like that. It could be because they care so much about, they could be a thing like that. Um, Paris is more of the bully, like where she'd be like, "You talk shit, I'm gonna come after you." Like she's actually more vindictive, possibly than that. But but the thing is like even though if and when they are, the point is we're trying to figure out over here, letting people know. It's not a thing to go, "Oh, you're a damn socio, I hate you." You know that? No, what I'm trying to do is figure out how that came about, because that's what you need to know so that doesn't happen anymore. And so when they're going through this thing right here, the female portion, it's either okay, I can have some explanations for it as you're just generally talking sociopath, they're talking psychopath, but either or, right? That when they are raised beyond, any abuse or anything, girls are allowed to have emotions, okay? So there wasn't that addition of like, if you show emotions, then you're not a real woman. Okay? That is a factor and something that differentiates males from females. And also, why is that being taught, right? So, who was teaching that? The Christians, right? The male supremacist Christians. So, it is important to know that because it was a purposeful creation And you could see what was wrong with their religion, right? The religious doctrine, and how that caused massive monsters. Because what they're doing is they're telling women it's okay to be a human, as far as like your emotions go, except the thing about that, okay, you're allowed to have your emotions, but the psychotic sociopath male will tell you that you're acting crazy. And though, even though some people are, but just saying from a healthy perspective, that you're acting crazy and irrational. Oh my god, I actually saw a story on Daily Mail when a wife that got a divorce from her husband, because he was abusive, right? And she told the police that he maybe, right, could be the Gigolo Beach killer. And I was like, oh, I don't think anything's wrong with that. I probably would think that too. If he was an abusive piece of crap and we're in the area or something like that, right? Just to be like, you might want to check into him. And so apparently they checked into him or something. And then he said that he gaslighted it. He's like, she has a crazy, wild imagination, yada yada yada. And it's like, dude, if any woman has to sit there and think like you could be a potential, she's telling us there's something wrong with you. And then you see this gaslight. It was this crazy thing. I don't think anybody even noticed it. They probably would have just said, yeah, the woman's crazy, just making up shit, blah blah blah. I was like, no, there's a lot of men that have the traits of a serial killer. It doesn't mean that he did it, but they were like, oh, potential and a true potential, right? And then she divorced him, right? And so he wants to gaslight it and call her nuts and crazy, doing that. So you'll see these dynamics where these men do that, and that they start saying there's something bad with them for having emotions. Like this woman just crying, she's hysterical. This is something us men do not do. And then they're all depressed and fucking nuts and shit. And so like they're doing that, right? You'll see this dynamic. So for women, they have a more healthy upbringing as far as the emotional portion of it, where they're not telling them don't have emotions, where you're like without empathy. But that would happen, you would have it if there's some traits like your parent is like a bully, a number of things, right? Like some abuse, something, okay? Then that can be created, right? But on top of that, even if they are created, like let's just say Paris, well, they were dangerous to society when she went and did a DUI, right? Because she could have killed other people. So she's a danger to herself and others, right? And so that that's wrong to do, but she thinks she's above it at the time and then did it, right? So we're talking about that behavior right there. And then when she went into court, it was just like, yeah, fuck the sister, like she's totally. And then, but you're getting the backstory, right? Like I was abused in this one portion, but the portion when she got abused was not the actual stem off to her being that way. So she's withholding information there, right? And it's just like additions though, right? And so you want to get that picture of like what's going on, because oh, she's getting abused here, she got abused here, she okayed this here. So no wonder she would sit there and slut shame everybody else because she's being abused at home, because maybe her mom's sitting there telling her she's slutty for doing that. You know what I mean? Like there's this dynamic going on as to why she would then go, oh, I'm gonna like just sexually, bully some other girl, right? This bullshit, and then feel more powerful because at home, maybe the dynamic is she has no power at home, and she feels more powerful by taking it out on some girl that's 5 years younger than her. You know what I mean? It's stupid, right? But it's part of that abuse thing. So I'm trying to I need to figure it out, because we need to tackle that abuse right there. And I mean, that would be like the factors as to why it's less than women. Women are not the ones going doing mass shootings, okay? There's a reason for that. And you have to come up with the conclusion as to why that would be. So we know why that is, right? Have we not figured that out? It's not that they don't commit any crimes. It's not that at all. They do. It's just their crimes are typically they're less violent people, but some of the ways that they do their crimes too, like the bullying thing, which was totally seen. Everybody's like, cool to be a mean girl. I'm like, dude, this is ridiculous. That's evil as hell. It's like the frat housing thing, right? Like, they're purposely hurting each other, but in some ways, sometimes it's just among their friends. But then it gets vindictive when it's, let's just F with this one kid, like this thing. But she was being straight up bullied. So I'm trying to figure out why that was going on. Because we've been all victims to it, and it's kind of important because then when they get in trouble, if they ever do, then they know to go after their parents as they should be. But okay, so what the fuck? Yeah, sexual psychopath. We should use that term. A sexual psychopath. Well, Kevin was what was he? A sexual bully. He's a sexual psychopath. Okay, yeah, so sexual psychopath laws, starting in the 30s, before some modern concepts of psychopathy were developed. Sexual psychopath laws, mental illness. It's not a mental illness, it is a hate crime. And that's an addition. See, they're not seeing it as a hate crime and considering them as sociopaths, but sexual psychopaths. Okay, so, and having half the states, okay, in the mid-60s, more than half the states had such laws. Sexual offenses were considered to be caused by underlying mental illnesses. Wow, we got to take away from their brain that they just couldn't control themselves. They started raping us all. Yeah. And it was thought that the sex offenders, yeah, but their laws right then were like rape 10-year-olds. Okay, so it says should be treated in agreement with general rehabilitation treatments. No. Can you fix a sociopath? No. That's a hate crime. Starting in the 70s, many laws were modified to abolish in favor of more traditional responses such as imprisonment due to criticism of sexual psychopath concept as lacking scientific evidence, treatment, predictions of future offending crap, and starting in the 1990s, several states have passed sexual dangerous person laws, registration, housing restrictions, public notifications, mandatory reporting, care professionals, civil commitment, blah, blah, blah. Okay, completed. Psychopathy measurements may be used in the confinement decision process. I don't know. Here's what I'm going to say. Again, when a person is a sexual predator like that, they're a sociopath. What they're doing is they don't see anybody as a human, and they will rape them. So that's actually taught to them, by the way, which is so odd. They like have this like dissonant. Is it dissonant? The fucking word, dude. I'm like, I need to eat. A disassociation with their religion, doctrine, to what these men are doing, right? So they created monsters to go rape a bunch of girls, and then this was a continuation through centuries here, God knows how long. And that it's a hate crime. It isn't sex. So they're looking at it all wrong. And also, they are not rehabilitated completely, even after they're let out, for a lot of them, okay? If not most. Because, as you know, for a sociopath, the brain functions, how they are fucking going on in their brain, is not curable. So the only thing that they could do is try to get them to try not to reoffend, but the way that when they offended is not changed in their brain. So they have a potential to offend again. So they just let them out like that. Because they're not targeting the right stuff. I'm just saying. And they personally don't care. And they only want to bust certain people and don't want to see certain things as rape because they want to commit hate crimes on our gender. And so because of that, men have to suffer with them promoting them to get raped, and so therefore nobody gets busted. Okay? This is a major problem. This is from sociopaths. Those were the sociopath laws. I don't know where the fuck they came up with sexual psychopath, but it's a good term. Why don't we bring it back? Like, I don't know. Um, then, yeah, I just don't really see a difference in the two terminology, the two things here. Like, they're trying to separate it, but I just think they're just individuals, and it can come off a certain way on some and some and others. I don't think there's a way to truly, let me say this, I don't think there's a way to truly umbrella exactly how each person's going to be, because every person's environment is completely different, or it varies in degree. Even when you're in the same environment, we just seen that two different types of people come out of it. And or if you look at the Duggars, quite a bit of people came out of it, right? So you created a sociopath, and then you created a tank of victims, right? And a bunch of, abused children that are going to be trying to deconstruct this crap forever, right? And they didn't all turn into sociopaths, right? I hope not. From what I've seen, they didn't. Um, so you're seeing a lot of different things, and that's why I'm saying it's really interesting. And actually, that was a good example, because you see a family full of girls, right? And then you have the boy, and how the boy was treated differently. So you're seeing why there's that big difference in the scale of women versus men. So men are the violent, disgusting predators for the most part. Yes, we recognize that females can be too, but they're becoming that because of the other thing, right? So you want to tackle the male portion heavily, but what tends to happen is, because of the MS bullshit, society goes and targets women, like, no matter what, like, it doesn't even matter, and they'll purposely disregard men, even though it says male supremacy. So you would target the head, right, particularly, but for the sake of everybody, we do know they exist, and so I'm just trying to pull some out to show you kind of like what they look like. They just don't talk about it, and they brush it off as nothing and whatever. I don't buy the other person's version as somebody else, because I'm like, that's not there. I don't see that at all. I would absolutely pull it out. Do you think I'm a fan of the socios? Fuck no. I was like, no. So I don't want them I don't want them to keep creating on the planet being that way, right? So as long as what can happen is, as long as if they're like aware of it, and they don't like, because some of them, because they're narcissists, they may not like looking like that. I don't know, but they may want to fix it a little bit. I think Howard Stern definitely falls on the scale on that level, because he's like, it takes me I still haven't learned how to treat women right. Some bullshit. So yeah, he was born without at being proper. I was like, being proper. But the thing I noticed about him, though, um, he does have a sense of humanity, which is there somehow. Like, in the mix of, like, him treating everybody like shit. Like, there's this level of, like, I actually do care about certain things, and then some things he doesn't. And that may be a good thing, because then it's sort of like, oh, you could work with, like, you do know how that feels, so it's not like you're completely empty inside. But I don't know. And then he tries, and then that's kind of a psychopath or socio, or however he wants to define himself, that I could actually deal with, because it's kind of like they know they have a problem, and they were really interested in the depression part, because I don't know, he was dealing with depression, the depression part that gets in with this crap. Uh, and then trying to work on it, versus like saying, F your feelings, I'm gonna run y'all over, and blah 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 blah. And so it's kind of interesting. I don't know, but yeah, he had a lot of problems. I mostly back in the oh my god, in the day. But he wasn't like the type of guy that you're thinking, oh, he's gonna go murder everybody, right? It's more of like, I don't really care how you feel. I'm gonna really F with you guys, and I mean, I think a lot of people acted in that way, but maybe not so much to some of these extremes that they did. But literally, yeah, the degrading of my gender, it was pretty bad. And then, but then at other times, he was good to people. There was times that he wasn't, and then he seemed to legitimately feel bad. Like, I'm gonna say this, legit. He seemed legitimately like he felt bad about a situation. And so yeah, it was kind of weird. Like there's something there. Oh, okay. So everybody has their own version of what they think of it. That's why I said I go. Every time I go through it, I always find these like new classifications or somebody's other definitions, and I have mine, and I will go through things and go, do I agree with that? Yes, maybe. Some of that, no, maybe. Maybe that's possible. This one, impulsive and irresponsible. Okay, yeah. Okay, impulsive depends, like, but generally, yeah, like they might be impulsive, like I'm gonna go blow all my money and be irresponsible and not care about like anything, right? Just like like a teen might, before they learn to be responsible, right? Like there is a level of like you have to learn to kind of be responsible, right? It's almost like they just said F it to the wind and then they never became responsible, right? I did notice that parents back then were abusive, trying to force kids to be responsible and expected them to be responsible without actually letting them learn it proper. It's so weird. Okay, so they were abused actually in that process. Just want to point it out if anybody didn't know, or maybe we're thinking of it and they're like, oh yeah, totally. Okay, impulsivity, sensation seeking, and risk taking. Now, risk taking on itself shouldn't be considered bad. Like, okay, you want to go for a career, right? It's pretty risky, right? You're going to go out and do all these things. And then, you know, but risk taking, like trying to jump off a building, and unreliable behavior. Again, it depends. What if you have panic attacks, right? You would have unreliable behavior. So again, depends, but generally speaking, like you can't count on these people. They're just a clusterfuck. And then financially parasitic lifestyle. Okay, this is kind of bad because government set up a pyramid system for white men to be on top, and they made women where they shouldn't work, and then it was really hard to get jobs, and then they actually forcefully put women in a position to where, okay, even if they work, like they didn't make as much as men, and then they wanted it where women hooked up with men and lived with them and had babies, right? So they kind of set up a pyramid to have this occur. They also were racist as hell, and so then it caused this other thing to happen where it made people of color reliant on the welfare system. And so this portion here depends. Now I can see it where they're just constantly like living off of, they were to me like the people. So lack of realistic long-term goals. Depends how you want to look at realistic. I mean, there's a lot of people that didn't have really realistic dreams and then they happened. So what are we going on? This is what I don't like. Kind of some of their definitions sound like a Christian, conservative, abusive piece of shit, right? I don't think that's a good gauge necessarily. Perspective, lack of realistic long-term goals. Well, tell me what's realistic. Because you could have gone to college and thinking you're going to get a fucking career in that thing, and then you can't now. Um, Again, that's kind of some of that stuff. Okay, here's one totally. Deficit affective experience, lack of remorse, guilt, shallow affect, coldness and unemotionally, callousness and lack of empathy, and failure to accept responsibility for own actions. Right. So, here's where this gets tricky. This is tricky for people, and I'm going to tell you why. When you're a fucking rapist, you're a fucking sociopath. So what they do is try to throw the responsibility on the victim, right? Do you guys ever see that? So you should see it. Like you should, because it's totally everyone. They like to throw the responsibility on the victim. This is what a sociopath does. And so they don't want to take responsibility for their actions. So when you hear Pamela Anderson talking, and why I'm calling that out, I don't want her to be a hot mess. Are you kidding? She's a hot mess because her mama told her this stuff. She made sure to tell us her mama told her stuff. Even if she's an adult, she can't make decisions for herself or something. She's throwing the responsibility onto the victims versus throwing the responsibility onto the perpetrator. Okay? So this is one sign of a sociopath. That's why I'm saying. I go, fuck, dude. But we know why that happened a little bit in her stuff. Well, besides her mom, well, her mom definitely some bullshit, dude. Her mom must have totally victim blamed her to you know what. And then she was a victim, right? So we know the abuse cycle was going on there. And then she go in criminal history here with these son of a bitches, you know, this behavior that's a danger to self and others. And yeah. Now, it's not her fault that anybody raped her or any of those things. I wouldn't say it's her fault that somebody sold her sex tape. It's just that she lacks empathy. You'll notice with these people, they lack empathy for other victims. It's herself. Herself. Everything's about herself. And it's kind of bothersome that Brittany identifies with that. That's not good. So you can learn more about even the others by who they're associating with. And they do well together. That's why I said they like each other because they both are vindictive like that in that way. But it's effed up because it was sort of like indoctrinated into them to do that. But they won't take responsibility for the perpetrator. They don't put it on them. They put it on the victim of the sociopath. So then what they like to do throughout this whole thing is go, you never take responsibility for your actions. Oh, from a socio? Yeah, that's the shitty part of them. And so that is the actual action of what that looks like. They are not taking responsibility for them. Kids can't make any decisions like that. So God, they put the responsibility on the child victim and not the perpetrator adult. And this was actually all the rules and laws, right? So the social norm was to blame the children for drinking, when in the story it'll be an adult that gave a child a drink. That is the core trait of a sociopath. So that was government. That's the social norm, was to be a sociopath. See? They flipped it. And so if you understand that, you won't be, it's still aggravating, but you won't take it as like to believe that you are the person that's to be responsible for it. You should be very strong in knowing that, no, it's actually everybody else, right? You really should. And be very strong in that. And Pamela probably never had anybody really, really sit down with their ass. And she doesn't, I don't know. And it's one of those things that she may always be like that. Crappy, dude. And she was hanging out with Nargard. That's another thing. I go, oh, just a history of some really bad stuff and hef, and she's learning that, these men can do what they want. She's basically kind of saying that. And then, I don't know, just a lot in it. Arrogant and deceitful, interpersonal style, impression management, or superficial charm, inflated and grandiose sense of self-worth. I wish I had a little bit of that in me. I joke, but I was like, I wish I had like this grandiose self-worth. Like, I don't know, I don't. Wait, he's like pathological lying, deceit. Yeah, that one's very big with them. Manipulation for personal gain. Yeah, those are actual real core traits of socios. They're calling it psychopath, but that's actually real core traits of sociopaths, yeah. Even if I was being manipulated right now by Brittany getting a fucking hiring a fucking nanny, I want to see her on some pills. I was like, I just, if she takes her meds, you know what I mean? Like, nobody wants Brittany falling down hitting her head. She could die like doing shit like that. That's where she's gonna get herself into physical harm. No, we don't want that. It's like the addition and whatever she had, and calling it out, sometimes it can get them very vindictive with me. They'll come target me sometimes. Corey, that's the one. You don't want to, he's too much. He's the type that gets so mad that he's impulsive, and he'll start targeting everybody, and they start lying and making up stories. Like, he's nonstop. Like, fuck, man, that shit's like really bad. But you see why? Because of the child thing there. Oh my god. That's terrible. And the wife, I don't, are they still separated? I don't know. Sometimes those are just schemes of his. They'll do some dumb thing in the media just to get attention, going, oh, buy some tickets because I'm doing a show tomorrow, you know? So I don't know. But the, I can't imagine being in the middle of that. Like, I can't imagine being gaslit by that because it's so ridiculous. It's not, there's nothing in it that's real. It's just paranoid, delusional. Well, he knows what he's doing. That's the thing about it, is like he knows he's bullshitting. I gotta make up Marilyn in my story where he's not really in it. Like, what? I was like, what? I gotta make a headline saying, yeah, like 30 years ago, Marilyn had me over to fucking do karaoke, and they were laughing at me, you know, and then he did a book, and then they were talking some shit, but then he told me that he was going to put it in a book, and he showed me the book, and he put it out, and then after that I got mad, and then, yeah, it was really that thing, and I was like, what? And then, but then Rose was like, talking about, like, people like a sociopath as well, okay? She's like talking about people as, I look at people as entertainment. I'm like, that's quite a sociopath thing to say. Well, they would say psychopath on that one, but as entertainment. I look at these humans as entertainment. It's like, what? But we already know her background's really bad, so she may be void. She may be void of some things. Um, Is she a danger to everybody else? I don't know. I know that she has had substance abuse problems, and she harbors a lot of anger, but it's sort of like understandable. Like, when you go in this thing, you can understand like why that would happen in that scenario there. And that Marilyn would come off as a more healthy, not that he's healthy, but he would come off as a more healthy person to her than the environment she left. And overlook like the other faults of him, maybe, or maybe it could be like this, or like they're just both kind of abusers, and then like for her to go at him, it would just turn into this, like, you know, it would turn into this other thing. And but she did stand up and say she supports the victims, even though she says she's not a victim. Now, that could be because she still doesn't view other things as being abuse, or she was part of just being abusive with them, and that could be. It wasn't terrible abuse. It was just them two. Like, Corey's the worst in it though, because even her saying that, Corey wanted to fight her. He's like, I was gonna get, you know, and it's just like, who the fuck are you, dude? You want to go beat up a woman? Like, what's your problem? Like, he's going on like that. And then, but they didn't technically really do anything. It was just like, they're treating him as, you know, how he wants to be treated back then. Because Howard was being way worse with them and laughing and, you know, using him as a, you know, sidekick, you know, joke thing over there. And he's not bothered by that because he's getting the attention he wants from it. Why is he going to trash Howard being that way on him when that's the person that gives him all the airtime and the attention that nobody else will give him, right? Because that's what he's feeding on. And when the attention is bad, he starts attacking. And then he attacked Latoya. That's why I said I go, that Latoya thing's crazy. He's like up front lying, just lying, like, and she didn't do anything wrong. And then he covers up stories. He's non-cooperative. He didn't help her in any situation with any of the, any allegation thing or any other thing. And then, or anything happening to him. You know what I mean? Like, you go on this thing and it's like, yeah, and so then you don't know where the truth is really with him. And so in order to get that, you have to really go around him and get different information from people, right? And then you get the gist of what really happened there. And then, and he was open to talking about human trafficking. He doesn't care. He's like, what's wrong with, doing this to these girls, and what's wrong with, handing my friend to an adult man. Trying to say that he wanted to have sex with them or something. And everybody's mad because he's such a narcissist, right? And so he'll just make up these stories about it and then say, well, that's the reason why I got rid of him. But he has no concept that what he's saying is criminal. Or he doesn't care. Like, it's just, human trafficking's totally fine. So we're just going to talk about how I just handed my little young boyfriend to a adult man who is older than everybody in the story. And then bring up Charlie Sheen, which is just like, he had a personal problem with them, and it's possible that Dom made up the additional portion of it too. Who knows? But those two, yeah. So that's the thing. I know some people are using the word divorce, but they're like, we're separating. And so I'm like, are they fucking, like, sometimes it's like you go, are they messing around, like, just for media attention? But they might be like, she needs to get away from that anyway. So, you know what I mean? That's not a, what was going on over there was not right. And, she's gonna have to confront that stuff. That was not cool, like, going after other victims. Like, and apparently she was part of some other stuff too, but whatever. Inner thoughts on that type of thing right there. You're not going to get the proper information from a person like that. They're going to spin the story and try to throw you off, which they did, and then cover up for people that were bad, which he did. He saw those actions as being fine. That's the truth of it. The actions that they were, how they were being, as being fine. And so he's not going to tell on things that he doesn't see as abuse, and it's abuse. So I'm sorry, this is going to be a long one. Yeah. All right. I didn't actually know the background of the story on Columbine because I'm not really big on the shooter things. I mean, I'm aware of the shootings and stuff, and I knew the story and the two guys, and I heard about the trench coat thing, but I didn't actually get into the, like, finer details of this. And so can you say that I'm spot on? Can you say I'm spot on? This is wonderful because I know I'm on the right track. I'm on the right track. Okay. They did this meeting with the parents, right? Of the when they're calling a psychopath, but he's a sociopath. Okay, but anyway, they're telling the parents he's a psychopath. But watch this, okay? Watch this. Wayne did most of the talking. He's a retired Air Force major. Flag, right? I'm telling you, these are the flags. I go, the more information that we know, the more flags we're going to find out. Okay? And these guys are such pigs that every time I mention, like, the military stuff, they come out, like, in defense, like, oh, we're the great men, the heroes, blah, 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 instead of, like, looking at what their problem is. Anyway, but yes, right there. Oh my God, that's a major flag of why he's a socio. Watch. And sounded like one. And sounded like one. Yeah! Hey! Son, don't you have emotions? This is terrible. Don't be a sissy. You need to be fall in line, son. You know that shit? Oh, man. This one's bad. careful and priceless in his language. Oh, is dad not a socio too? I mean, dad would be. I would probably think he would be, but what? I have no idea. What does that look like? Okay, so he was tall but slight, and okay, and then they're like a friendly neighbor. Okay, Wayne was mystified by his son. He's mystified. What do Air Force people do? Don't you guys go out and kill or something? Like, you know what I mean? Like, something right there, right? And we're seeing this in tons of cases too, right? With the Kevin Spacey, what the damn Trump one, the fucking take of him. Okay, there's a level of what they're doing that are creating him. Okay, then okay. So Wayne and Kathy accepted that Eric was a psychopath. Where that came from, they didn't know. Oh, I could tell you. I could tell you right now. Oh my god, if I read this story though, like even like maybe just a couple years ago, I might have been just like I might have overlooked the Air Force military parent, the Christian, the authoritative thing, right? Because I wasn't uh, correlating mass child abuse from, I don't know, it just didn't, that portion didn't come together yet. And I probably would have read this and just went, well, something that they did. You know, it wouldn't have flagged the other thing, and nor the addition with the Christian bullshit, right? Like those two. Oh my god, terrible, right? They go and they couldn't, they didn't know, and actually the way Dad is being, is in question. So that too could be another like it's Dad, and then the son. So it could be like the Kevin Spacey dad to Kevin, right? So, yeah, they're like, we have no idea. He's like, I just kill people for a living. I have no idea. And, you know, I raised my son to be like a military, you know, this thing, and not to have emotions and not to do this. And, you know, I probably was at home watching ourselves, you know, shooting up the place and fucking killing bodies and, you know, bragging about how many people I killed in the war. You know what I mean? Like something of that nature, right? Okay, so then they said, but he fooled them utterly. This is the biggest ignorance I've ever read, actually. My son was exactly like my husband? Yeah, but the husband didn't. Okay, so here's the thing with the husband, though. The husband didn't randomly go do that. However, the traits of that whole thing right there is instilled now in the son. I have no idea where he got that from. That's what I'm saying. It's terrible. It's horrible. Don't ask these people. Okay. And he also fooled a slew of professionals. Oh, what, those professionals that were all pro raping women and shit, and we're all like totally for being sociopaths in the open anyway, that is so normalized that none of y'all can figure out that you all are one? That one? Okay. So, you know, Wayne and Kathy clearly felt misled by the psychologist they sent him to. This not like the most idiotic round of people, right? Do you guys see it? It's so horrible, and it frustrates me, and it takes me forever to explain all this because I gotta read it to you guys. I can't just say it. You gotta see it. You gotta see the stupidity and how they don't even get it. Like, the doctors had brushed off Eric's trademark duster only as a coat. The coat didn't do it. I'm like, the coat didn't do it. Eric's problems as rather routine. At least that's the impression he gave Wayne and Kathy. Ah, a he? He. Another he in here, right? These boys are acting just like me. We all rape the kids and we all fucking believe in beating the shit out of them and teaching boys to have no emotions. Him being a fucking little shit fuck is pretty normal for these boys. You know, you gotta, you know, boys will be boys. Yeah, that, dude, I'm telling you, these professionals are such shitheads. Like, I'm not saying that there's no good professionals out here, okay? I'm not. But as you see, if you're going to a fucking professional and your ass goes out and murders some woman after it, y'all fucking ain't getting it right. I was like, you know what I mean? Like this thing right here, I'm getting it right. I know I am because, you know why? Because I didn't read this before. And It's there. It's fucking there, dude. It's literally in the story. And okay, so then it says they shared that perception with these people, and then other than van break-in, Eric had never been in serious trouble. He and Dylan were arrested in '98 and charged with 3 felonies. They eventually entered a juvenile thing. Eric rarely seemed angry. His parents said there was one odd indication where he slammed his fist into a brick wall and scraped his knuckles, and that was startling. But kids do weird things. It seemed like this thing not a pattern to be worried about. They never went online to look at it. I found them kind of incurious. I don't know. Um, Slamming your fist into a fucking brick wall, like, not bother you. I mean, it's kind of weird. He's like a little self harm here. I don't know. Uh, but dad, I mean, we don't know what dad did. See, here's another thing with the parents of this. They're not going to tell you that they beat the shit out of him. They're not going to tell you about abuse. They're just not. They At time to time she wondered whether Harris's were lying or exaggerating. Her instinct said no. They did not strike her as calculating or devious. Maybe a bit hapless. And Wayne, are you kidding? All these guys were such shitheads in school anyway. All of them, not just them. And Wayne had somewhat inscrutable, honest, but not revealing. Linda believed them, but wondered whether the couple second guessed themselves enough. Honestly, if it were me this happened to, I think I'd still be questioning myself. They did not seem to doubt themselves. I don't know. Let's see. I watched that. I was like, Wayne defended Kathy as a good mother. Nobody's good here because if your kids came out like that, you're not good. Kathy weren't, but she said was always available for Eric. She insisted on meals together. Oh, see, here we go. Oh my god, it's making me laugh. Like the early '90s, or in the '90s, when they're like the church people, when they were raping all the kids, right? All the girls were getting raped, and the church was siding with boys raping girls, and that the girls are being slutty. And the reason why this happened is because, and they didn't say rape, they were but they were raping all the kids, right? In this one school, right? And they got pregnant, and nobody cared who molested their kids, raped them, nothing. But we had to blame the women, right? We had to blame the little girls. And they go, you know why this is happening? Because kids are not spending meal time together. They're not having dinner together at home. And so right here, this came up. I was just like, oh my god, you gotta be kidding me. So she insisted on meals together. So she forced everybody to have a family meal together, right? Like, this means anything, right? We all know it's all bullshit. And so it says as a family. Like, for what reason? Like, the whole, like, idea of this is kind of weird anyway, but I was distressed about Eric's lack of college or career plans. To Linda's ear, Kathy seemed oddly unsure whether Eric had taken entrance exams, and Kathy thought he might end up in a community college, so maybe that explained things. That wouldn't be bad. There's nothing wrong with community college. Linda found Eric's mother sincere and convincing. Yeah, maybe they're both they're all a bunch of sociopaths. Was Eric unusually fascinated with weapons? Not really. They said he was into Doom, obviously that subscribed to Gun Magazine. But those two fit together. Eric spent hours and hours on video games, taking enormous pride in the new levels he created. There were weapons in Doom, he said, and then blah blah. They never discovered a hint of his arsenal. Counseling and taking antidepressants, and the situation seemed under control. Now this was a good example of it. So they didn't see him as a sociopath, I think. I think they were just, like, thinking he's, like, a depressed person. And this has been going on. Totally. I think they're just absolutely misdiagnosing all these things. Now, some of the flag indicators that they probably should be looking at now, it's like, is your Christian, do you have religious parents? Do you have military parents? A number of these things that could help flag, so then they can look into it and see if they have these, like, indicators of, like, that authoritative parenting, over strict ruling type of parents. They could be any religion, because all the religions were very strict and abusive, right? And so then when you're looking at that, then you already know there's abuse in there, because there's nothing good in any of it. Like, there's just nothing good in any of it. But just see, like, how far that abuse went, and then trying to dig at his empathy levels of the, you know what I mean? Like, how they're looking at that. I go, yeah, no, now it's just like easy flag, military parents. If I hear Christian, I didn't see Christian in here, but maybe that will pop up. But typically at this time in 1999, it would be before that, be in the 80s, they were definitely doing Christian parenting, which was abusive, like across the board. We're just saying across the board now, because I don't think that even in households that were like maybe not overly religious, my parents were not really religious at all. At least not when I was growing up. Like, they might have went to church here and there for Christmas and some bullshit, but they weren't really religious. It's just sort of like the thing to do, like that thing. So there was no like preaching in the house. They might have said like bedtime prayer or some bullshit, right? But it was not like that. It was me going on later about it, but they didn't have that thing. But they were still parenting like every other Christian psychotic parent, right? Being abusive, right? You need to follow these rules. You need to do that. So that was a typical parenting. And I think also when you look at it, when you go hindsight back, Hollywood TV would present parenting in a certain way. So everybody's kind of on this level of doing the same exact thing, no matter what you fucking believe. And then some were worse, right? Some were far worse. Then TV didn't obviously show the more abusive portions of things, but some did. There was some older TV shows, like way back when they're like showing kids getting spanked and soaped and all this weird crap. And so like that was deemed normal. And so regardless of where you think you got it from or not got it from, the church people, right? So the church people were doing this to everybody. And so whatever becomes a social norm is what everybody does. And it's just, that's the thing. So your parents didn't need to necessarily be church people, but they were operating under the authoritative church parenting bullshit, right? That's kind of the best way to explain that. And then the military people were so fucking abusive, and they're soulless. So they are taught, or they were born that way. No, they were either by their parents, or because when they went into the military, they were taught to be a certain way. There's no way in hell if you told that guy to be emotional and he's crying or anything like that, because then he'll start doing the sissy thing, right? There's that. That is definitely there. Suicidal is questionable. I mean, it seems like it's there, but they definitely wanted, there's a big narcissistic thing about this. So let's see. And she does not say. She does not. Tremendously. I don't see any Christian thing in here. Let me see. This household is a hot mess. I mean, you honestly shouldn't need a therapist to say that your son's a fucking socio, but if your husband is one, then, it's kind of hard to, you're attracted to him, so you're like, God, I couldn't see anything different from my husband to my son. You know what I mean? Yeah, because I don't know a single military guy that does not have this goddamn problem. They would have to have it, because you couldn't do combat. You couldn't do that shit, dude, you guys. I don't think you guys understand the mindset here. Other than the military guys who think that's the greatest thing to be. That's why I said, I go, the ideal man is a sociopath. And if your father is this fucking military guy, yeah, you're gonna be like, good, my son's perfect. He's a socio. Don't have no feelings, sons, because that's not proper. What are you depressed about? Be a man. Suck it up. Yeah. And there's possible child abuse in that, because those guys are hella violent. And so there's going to be things left out of here that they're not asking. And then I don't see a Christian thing, but more than likely, let's see. Harris once told him he was agnostic. I don't care about their thing. I care about the parent. Because that was the same thing with Hitler. Nobody cares about what Hitler identified with later. What mattered was the upbringing of his parents. What was their religion? And how they abused them before then all these later things, right? That was the important factor, not what he later thought he was. Or whatever he claimed, whatever. I like how nobody... now, see, this is the thing. Nobody takes the blame here. They're like, it must have been the parents' fault. That's what most of us assumed. It is. It is, actually. It is. You're not getting what the problem was. The church is being abusive again. The Bible church, they just didn't want to accept it. I don't know what the fuck that is. I don't know. I'm just trying to skim it. I wanted to see if I saw that in there, but I don't know what their things are. They're focused on all the wrong... They're focused on all the wrong things. Like, his beliefs doesn't matter, right? I mean, at the time of the crime. It matters what the parents' upbringings, religion, or ideology was at the time from 1981 to, say, I don't know, maybe 1989 or something like that, right? So you want to know what's going on in that period right there. And so if the dad is a military fool, then you already know there's going to be something bad right there, okay? That's already the authoritative parenting, right? Boom, back. Then and it's more than likely the Christian parenting's there, so that's two whammies, right? So both these people can't figure it out. Then they go to the professionals, right? They were all idiots back then because a lot of them were a bunch of Christian loons and they were a bunch of sociopaths that raped everybody. And again, they're going to sit there and tell boys to be boys and that they need to act a certain way and that having no emotions is perfect. And beating your kid was promoted. Treating women like shit was promoted. Raping little girls was promoted. Everything was women's fault, promoted. Number of things, you guys. It was insane. Like when I go back into this portion here, fuck, it's bad. So that's the time period when I was in school, right? This is when they're being formed. This is the environmental factors that were going on in time between the 81 to 89, okay? And in that portion there is kind of like the main meat of what's developing here, and it's pretty bad. So then come 1999, it just implodes, right? There you go. So guess what's going to happen when the Trump people go from 2016 till now, and the kids from that period, right, and their parents, right, these are going to be their parents, right, and them not picking it up because they're still in denial that their religion is spreading this garbage and that their military fathers or parents, whatever, are fucking shit, and that's going to happen. It's shit going to happen. My brother is probably borderline socio something. I don't know, because they enabled that. There was a crazy thing with it. But anyway, so then he wasn't beaten up, though, or nothing like that. So then when you go forward, and the shootings happened in 99. So you see this lax thing that's going to happen because they're kids, right? So it's the formation of the socio. And then, bam, later in the future. You see that? So now we have this huge thing that happened in 2016 or so, somewhere around there. This development of a bunch of other monsters is occurring, right? So now, right now, so you're looking 16 to 17 to 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Oh, shit. 5, 6, 7 years in. We're 7 years in, okay? So if you have a child that was like around 3, they're going to be 10 years old right now. So you can expect, and then, it could be even 7 years. In the next 7, maybe 6, 7 years or so to a few other years beyond, expect some bad stuff. It's going to happen. And the reason it's going to happen is because they have not tackled this, right? Because they keep going off on, oh, it's just, they're just going after people of color. Or, oh, they're just going after the Asian community. Oh, they're just going after LGBTQ. Oh, we need to take their guns. You guys see what the problem is? I'm trying to explain this. So this is going to be really bad. But what's happening is, obviously, children like this are being created every day. They're being formed. And so every day or whenever, there's going to be a mass shooting because the monsters are continually being created. But it's going to be really worse with the Trump thing because the ideology in that kind of changed up a bit. I don't like what happened there because they started really dehumanizing a level of people that they didn't really before. The homeless thing, there wasn't this massive hate speech of like rid of them, annihilate, this bullshit. And then I had a whole bunch of hate crimes happen on me during this period. And if that's happening at the time of, guess what? You're gonna have these son of a bitches, not too far future, doing some more stuff like this, okay? So, scared because these people are such sociopaths, and they right now they're quite I don't know what it is because they started being more vocal, and it's they've always been vocal and pieces of shit, but some level of some things here it is very hard to hide from kids' ears, you know what I mean? It's not a thing where it's just in your house and some bullshit, they're saying something. It's a little bit more widespread. And so what's happening at school, because they're trashy kids, or they go to school and they start spreading this with other kids, that they might start acting that way. Just no. Yeah, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. That's just the cycle, this right here. There's no way in hell these people could have answered that in 99. I'm telling you. And they wouldn't even have wanted to. They're not wanting to now. But they wouldn't have wanted to target that military thing and nor the religious portions of that. It's about 80%. Let me see the Pew Research. I just want to make sure everybody understands this completely because that matters. Because they are the bias to every rule and law. And what everything goes by, to even therapy. So we should actually question some therapy things here. Okay, the Christian identity is the stickler among, what is this? Okay, what was the percentage in the 70s? In the 70s, it was 90%, okay? And then it says, as adults identified, that declined to 80% by the early 2000s. So, as you see, in that bracket period of time was 90, it would probably be somewhere between the 85 to 90% bracket in the 80s right there. So it is more than likely that no matter what, because all the kids were abused in this time period, even though they may not see themselves as being abused right now, they were all abused by this indoctrination into MS fucking crap shit fucking Christianity, okay? And so that was the addition to the military, because they're all kind of equally on the same level of male supremacy and treating women like shit and raping. And that's why they have a major problem with trying to fix that in the military, because they're trained to be sociopaths. So, that's going to be almost impossible. So, that type of shit. Okay. We kill people. Those people. Okay, so then, there we go. Well, that's in 1990. That's going up to 86%. Yeah, I was still, yeah, definitely. If it was at 86% in 1990, then it was definitely well over, closer to 90% in the 1980 portion. Yeah, so it's most likely stemmed off from that teaching, right? The abuse from the Christian doctrine. There you go. Okay. The male supremacist portion. See? Okay. I just want to make it clear, because I want y'all to know, you cannot fucking try to debate me on something that is factual. And we're backing up our facts. So I don't know why anybody would try to mute me. When you try to fucking mute me, shows that you're losing. I don't know. I mean, I honestly don't understand the target on the one video. It was like 2 minutes long or something of me doing something straight to the point. And like they were trying to hide that they were doing the conduct of throwing people in the street. And mind you, that was before they actually did that to me. That was before, it was a pre-thing. And the actual incident I was talking about happened, I don't know, there was something that happened there. And then I was trying to get to the point of them being neo-Nazis. Because they are. I mean, it just kind of comes together, right? Why they would have a swastika on their fucking goddamn, gun. And how government tries to separate itself from that, which they are not separate from that. Okay? And people of color still have the same problem, too, with women. And them shitting all over them. And so it doesn't, there's no group that's not a problem in this. No, not at all. Again, just targeting, going, oh, hate crime our group. Well, you better tackle the female issue, and everybody better stop tackling women, or better stop attacking women in the way of calling them sluts, prostitutes, and less human, and we should control them and rape them and do this shit and target fucking victims. That's kind of the concept of how you became slaves, because they enslave women. Like, they didn't even want to see them being human trafficked slaves to white men. That's hilarious. This. So, if you need to see a fucking mirror, Christmas is coming. Christmas is fucking coming, guys. You need a mirror? We can buy some mirrors for y'all and show you the fucking damage that you did. What is the percentage of you son of a bitches now, right? I've covered this a million times. The social norm is sociopaths. Christians in America now. Here's the problem. Even though the numbers are going down, 63% compared to the 80-something percent, 90 and 80s, right? In the 80s. The problem with this is that's not going down fast enough. And two, everything revolves around this goddamn shit right here. The laws, the fucking definitions of sociopath. They're using this as the basic ground, right? To go off of, to go after anything. Sexuality, they're using this as the base. The baseline. That's what I was looking for. The baseline to how they're looking at all of this. Sexuality, the baseline is Christian. So if you're going out against that, then they start making up terms. It's disgusting. But everything is revolving around the Bible. Like the world revolves around the Bible. And no matter what they come up with, that has to revolve around this fucking shit right here. But this isn't reality. And that's a problem. And mostly when you're gauging some mental health issues. When this is the actual mental health issue causer. The social norm is actually the sociopath. Not the other way around. Okay? So breaking what rules? What are we talking about? You know, that's a baseline. Like, where's the baseline? What are we talking about? Because if you're going by this, then we have a problem. And how you're gauging what the hell's wrong with these guys. And you couldn't figure them out, right? You couldn't figure them out. So it's talking about how you don't know shit about nothing. And I'm sitting here all day going, this guy, that guy. There's a couple girls over here. But those two girls right there, you know what I mean? Like, you're not really worried as much as from those two than you would be all these men. Because who is the most that do these crimes? Men. So, you need to target that. You need to stop shitting all over women. They don't want to see the core. They want to let it happen because they want the power. They want the power. They want to be abusers. They want to be sociopaths and not see themselves as one. FBI, you need a mirror. We could send you a mirror. They might come after me and think I'm trying to do something bad. So we're not sending them nothing. That's a thing. They need a fucking mirror. FBI can afford a goddamn mirror. You can afford a fucking long fucking mirror for yourself. That's why I said I go and they're evil. They were like going after gays, calling them psychopaths. That was FBI and everybody. What are you guys going on about? Are you going against the Christian norm? Oh, psychopath. Yeah, no, that's not proper. That's really bad health, fucking shit over there. I would not want to see a therapist in the 80s. They were terrible. I told you, they were actually really terrible. They were trying to blame me for my mom's divorce. Or my mom told them some bullshit. And they're like, how do you feel that your mom said that you're part of the reason why your dad didn't get along with her? Or something weird. And I was like, I have nothing to do with their shit. Yeah, so that's how bad the therapy was, like, as a kid. I was like, what the fuck? And, no, I even knew as a kid. I was smarter than those guys. So I was kind of like, I'm not letting them fucking go on like that. I don't know what do you want me to say? It was so weird and uncomfortable that she did that. What do you think your mom's saying that? I think she's a bitch, man. No, I was like that. I mean, that's kind of, I didn't say that, but I was like, she needs help. I don't know why you're running with that therapist. Aren't you the one supposed to see that she's a problem? Maybe she's a sociopath. How would you blame a kid for that? It was weird. I was like, huh? I don't know. It was so out of the blue. They were already divorced or something at that time, I think. And then, or going through the divorce process. And I had nothing to do with it. It was really bizarre. Like, neither one of them wanted me. And, like, I was just like, whatever. I didn't even care they were getting divorced. It was actually quite happy. I was like, oh, I get 2 houses now. That's how I looked at it. I was like, great, we get 2 houses now. And I don't get drunk daddy over here. And I get to hang out alone in the country. Yeehaw. I don't know. Fucking some bullshit. So, yeah, and then the Golden State Killer thing came out. The calls started coming in. And then she would take off all the time. And then, yeah, she was irresponsible. My mom was irresponsible, totally. So I had to kind of be the adult, right? So, yeah, I was responsible. But I did some crazy shit at that house, though. I was like, I want to build a pool. So I'm going to go dig in the fucking yard and build it, like, fucking, like, this, like, huge swimming pool. And so I did that, and I got all the kids. I'm like, kids, come on out here. You know, I'm going to, like, dictate this, you know. I'm like, come on out here. Help me dig this fucking pool. So we dig this huge fucking thing underneath the trees. We filled it up with water. It's all muddy. So it turned into, like, a mud puddle. And she came out, she's like, oh my god, what the hell? I always did stuff like that. I came up with all these, like, things. It's just like, I want to move my water bed. It's, like, literally a 2-tier water bed. It's probably, like, 1,000 pounds. And somehow, you guys, I moved that thing across the room still full. And so it took me a while. I had to scoot it. I was scooting it, you know, doing the backward leg thing, scooting it. And then finally, I moved it across the room. My mom comes over and she's like, what the, who moved that? I was like, me? She's like, nah. Yeah, like she didn't believe it or something and didn't understand the whole thing. I go, yeah, I'm stronger than y'all too. So, yeah, and then one day, I think the weirdest thing I did, I took all these pussy willows from outside, all these pussy willows, and I bring them into the house, and I started undoing them, because they look fun to, like, jump into, so I just undid all of these, like, pussy willows, and was jumping all into them. If you guys know anything about pussy willows, how fucked up that is to get in your house, into the carpet and everything, and you can never get them out, really. Yeah, so I'm like jumping into it. I'm like, woo, you know, this shit, because, you know, I'm like, I did that just yesterday, but, yeah, they didn't like that. Call the 976 numbers and just be entertained. Like, I was trying to entertain myself in some way. It's like TV. What else do I do? Oh, they got these call lines. They're telling me to call these call lines. So, okay, I'm going to call them. Like, I have no concept. Like, they charge all this. And so I just call them all the time. It's like, what's the joke of the day? And it's all stupid and shit. And so, like, I'm, like, calling it every day. I got, like, all addicted, you know? And then, then I got in trouble. And then I couldn't do that anymore. And then, I mean, that's me as a kid. Is it, like, terrible? I don't think I was a terrible kid. I think I was a pretty damn normal kid. And, like, if that's the worst of me, like, holy crap, you know what I mean? It's like, how much of a narcissist am I when I love painting myself at the worst goddamn light? Totally different from everybody else, right? Is that a personality disorder? Painting yourself as shitty as possible online? I was, like, laughing at this because I was thinking about it. I go, I say all these, like, really honest things that if like people, they do these books, right? And, like, literally nobody goes in the books and writes what an atrocious piece of shit that they are, or anything, like, really horrible that they did. Or if they did something horrible, they try to paint it as like totally nothing and probably minimize the story or something like that. But yeah, that's an interesting thing. But that honesty is what needs to be happening and be a normal thing in society. So Christians don't want it, okay? They want to be fakes. We're these angel saints. We were a good family, and we all had dinner together, and nobody fought. And we don't understand like what went on here. Child, get the fucking goddamn. You know that whole thing that was going on.